Yes, everybody, it's that time of the week again, bitch. Welcome back to another saucy episode of Old School, New School Comedy Podcast. And I am your shit-talking host, Christy Miller. And with me this week is I really love this girl. I know I say this every week, people, so don't bust my balls, all right? She's amazing. I've done a lot of shows with her down in the Village at the Grizzly Bear Comedy Club and at New York Comedy Club and all the other comedy clubs, because all the comedy clubs call themselves something comedy club because it's a comedy club, because we don't know it's a comedy club unless it says comedy club. So, but I've done some shows with her. She's really funny, and it's like my first time hanging out with her outside of the comedy clubs, even though we're in a comedy club, Yeah, even though we're here at our new home, Broadway Comedy Club here in Midtown Manhattan. And she's been doing stand-up about 11 years this summer. Her big TV credit, first breakout TV credit was on Cash Cab, right? Don't we love that show? We love him. And anyway, she's super funny, and I'm really happy she's here today. I want to introduce everybody to Christiana Jackson.
Hey, hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no. Thanks for being here.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm cool.
All right. That's our show.
That's all we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that's what's up, people?
Quick check-in.
Yo. So talk to me, Diva. How, so now that you're coming up on 11 years in stand-up, you're such a child. I love this. I'm 28 years in.
Wow. Yeah.
Even though I started when I was 6 months old. And so how are you navigating this fun world?
Ooh.
At your 11 years, because they always say at 10 years, it makes you a veteran. Like, that's the old days in the 90s and 80s. Like, you hit 10 years, you pretty much found your voice, and now you're considered a comedy veteran.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Wow. I guess it's more of what am I doing? Okay, I would say this. Now I'm at the point, comedy, the landscape of comedy, as you know, has changed so much.
Overnight, it feels like, even though it wasn't, but it was.
Yeah, no, it was it's like, oh, okay, now it's a whole different animal, it's a whole different beast. So the way that I navigate now is, first of all, just seeing it for what it is, and I understand that you can run your ass around all the city all day long, that now doesn't mean anything. So I see it for what it is, and I see it for the benefits, but also for the grueling pace of $10 a night, you know what I mean? Like at times.
Oh yeah.
The highs and lows of it. And so what I've decided to do, what I started doing in post, like I'd say like 2021 was like, now I do shows that I know either I like the producers and they're friends of mine.
Yep.
So I know I'm going to like the show. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
It's either, or it has a lot of stage time or it pays well. And that's it. There's no more of like, oh, I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm more understanding of the nature of the game, how it's shifted, but then also that it's important to have balance and that I have to value my time differently.
Yes, you have to value your time and your talent.
Yeah.
Because it has changed. It reminds me of the late 90s. Like what's happening now happened a lot in the late 90s. And I talk about it a lot on the show because everybody has their, every guest of mine has their experience, whether they're 100 years in the game or 1 year in the game.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a whole landscape change overnight. And I'm like you, the clubs to me, this is my personal, I'm really bad because I'm so old in this, so I don't hang out at clubs anymore.
Oh yeah.
To hey, I'm around, I did that in the 90s and the 2000s, you know what I mean? I did that when I started, and it's like, now I'm like, oh, I have to go back and hang out with kids that are 2, 3, 4 years in where I was 20 years ago and then start over again. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Because the clubs have changed, the bookers have changed, the landscape's changed.
Yes.
New generations of people come in, they don't know the history. They don't know who you are anymore because, after a certain point, you either you made it or you didn't. And I came up without the internet. I came up without Instagram or social media. We didn't have any of this stuff. So you kind of made it on your own because you were good.
Yes.
And, so how are you using social media? How are you making that work for you?
Not nearly enough. But that's not barely at all. But that's the thing. I guess that's the other thing when it comes to time, where I'm like, okay, I could run and do a 10-minute spot. It takes me 2 hours to get there. do 10 minutes and get paid $3, or I can take that time to like edit a reel. You know, like now we just literally have to make different types of decisive choices on how and where to allocate time, talent, and energy.
Sure.
I've always had a day job. That's the other thing. I was never a hangout at clubs, so I was always like, I gotta work tomorrow. So I don't do drugs, sadly. So
no, I'm straight edge. So
yeah,
I don't drink drugs. I don't do nothing.
Yeah, we're like left out of a lot of the comedy world.
We're left out of fun,
that.
People. We're left out of fun.
Yeah,
okay?
I have my own fun at home, but
Atta girl.
But you know, so I guess I've always had a day job, and I've always had to consider, especially since I'm not a clean comedian, how that could impact me because you know, just being a Black person in America, just give anyone any excuse to get rid of you.
Oh, yeah.
So I've always felt like I did need to lurk a little bit in the shadows in terms of like comedy, social media, what I'm putting out there, This year I have worked on doing it more consistently.
Good.
Which is still not that much, but it's still more than before. But
Every
I'm just
little bit
not
helps.
I see it. One thing is, I think for a lot of comedians, we're not really, as much as everyone thinks we do it for attention, we're not really, we tend to be more introverted people.
Yeah.
And we want attention during the show, maybe a little afterwards, and then we don't
leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah, we don't want constant like interaction with people. We don't want that constant attention. And that's what social media does. It goes from, okay, this is the time of day that I'm going to be getting, you know, doing my thing, and I understand interacting with the public, but then just any time of day, somebody could respond to something, somebody could react, and you're like, what's going on? So it's an adjustment.
It's a big adjustment, especially because I'm 53.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're not the very tech-savvy generation, you know. And I didn't have kids, so I'm really fucked when it comes to tech, you know.
Yeah.
Should have had, like, our parents had us to change the channel before we had remote controls. Hey, smack you up the head, go change it to channel 7, you know. Like, we were the remote control. Now I'm like, fuck, I don't have any fucking kids to, like, upload this shit for me. I don't know what I'm doing. But it's like, social media is a 24-hour job.
Yes.
It's more, and it's crazy to me because I'm still old school and I'm adjusting. I'm open to change. Now, mind you, I'm very open to change. As long as I'm able to do the change, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
And, but for me, it's like, I didn't come up like that. So I still have old tapes playing of like, I grew up in a time where you got booked because you were funny.
Yes.
And you had to hustle. Like, we hustled spot after spot after spot. We would create rooms in the 90s when comedy was at its dark times. Like, people like, what do you mean the dark times of comedy? Watch the Comedy Store. That's where I grew up. The Comedy Store documentary. And I think chapter 3, there's like 5 parts to it. And it's the fourth one is the dark days. That's when I was there. And it was like, we'd start the shows at 8, right? And there's a comic every 15 minutes. Well, we'd have to call and go, hey, is anybody there? You know, and sometimes the shows wouldn't start till like 9, 9:15, 9:30, or 10 o'clock, or not at all. We would just cancel them.
Yeah.
So, you know, we were like, fuck, even though we have spots, are we getting on stage? So we created, you know, our little independent rooms with bar shows and gay club shows and laundromat shows and coffee shops we did a lot of. And we did shows at strip joints a lot.
Yeah.
And so we created all these weird independent rooms, and then the alternative rooms popped up, like Largo and all these places, like in LA, and I know here too as well, because they kind of coincide. And that was like the birth of the independently produced shows and the bringer shows, and you know, we just did it because we wanted stage time.
Yeah.
And we would bring whoever we could to fill butts and seats just to have stage time. It wasn't even about making money back then. It was about getting on stage and getting better and stronger so we could launch it into something. And nowadays, you don't even have to do that shit.
No.
You just use your phone and you can make a huge following. I still haven't cracked the code on the algorithm stuff.
Me neither. And I will say, like, one thing that concerns me a lot in terms of like social media and algorithms and all that stuff is if you aren't like, I am not a clean comedian.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, no, of course. But like, so I feel like if you are doing things that are not clean, the algorithm also will
flag you.
They'll sync
TikTok sunk me.
Yeah.
With my podcast reels were doing well, and then I put stand-up reels on there, and I would get shadow banned.
Yes.
And they say you're going against community standards, and like they wouldn't delete it or block it. They just didn't put it in the algorithm. So I'd have 0 views or 1 view, and I'm like, what are you doing to me, dude? Like all the crazy shit we see on these things, you know, all the violence and the hate speeches and all this crazy shit going on, but a comic telling a joke that's off color.
God forbid you use the word dick. Then all of a sudden, you're done. I've been shadow banned on Instagram for. That's also why part of me is just like I'll start trying, and then I'm just like, here we go. I know that people will tell me like I wasn't able to find you on Instagram, and I'm like, yeah, they're constantly shadow banning me. One of the things that I did like years and years and years ago, before there were the memes about Narcos and Pablo Escobar, I created a character called Grumpy Pablo, and Grumpy Pablo was based off of Narcos season 2 because he was just frowning a lot, and I thought it was hilarious. And I also understood that there was backlash in season 1 from Narcos because the actor wasn't Colombian, he was Brazilian. So I'm like, oh, what they did was they just had him talk less. I was also going through my own shit in life, so I would just take photos with a fake mustache and say, and like my character name was Grumpy Pablo. And they started ripping those photos down. The first one they ripped down because they said I was involved with
cartel.
Like you're involved in drug trafficking, and it was literally a photo of me frowning with a fake mustache on, with my office phone, and it just said I've got a case of the Mondays. That's all it said. And they started ripping those down. And it's just like, I feel like my account has never, ever recovered from them constantly being like, we think that you were involved in... I'm like, I am a woman in a fake mustache being silly, bros. Like,
an office job. Are you kidding
Exactly.
me?
I'm like, it says I got a case of the Mondays. Like, I mean, there was nothing... I think it's because of the hashtags I use, but it's also like, is there no discerning, okay, this isn't actually, there's no drugs involved. This is a wacky lady in a mustache.
No, it's their AI. Like, I noticed it get real bad when lockdown hit, when they went to computers for everything. Like when when their offices were shut down and no one could go into the office and actually physically patrol or listen for algorithm words or whatever they do, however they do it with the human people.
Yeah.
Then when it went to strict AI, now the weirdest shit like will pop up. Like 8 years ago you posted this meme and you were taking it down and blocking your account for 30 days. I'm like, I'm in jail for 30 days for like and my favorite thing too is like, why are comics being held on such a weird level of what's the word I'm looking for?
Like standard?
Yeah, like a weird level of standard, but also like this weird, something like that.
Moral compass?
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, look around at the world. So now we're the scapegoat. Like, you know, I told someone, I said, you know, back in the 1920s and the roaring 20s back then, post-Spanish flu pandemic, prohibition was alcohol and speakeasies. So speakeasies would pop up everywhere, underground alcohol parties.
Yeah.
Now the speakeasies are comedy clubs, and the comedians are the new prohibition because everybody, we can't do anything without getting canceled or attacked or scrutinized or taken down off of like social media. But like, excuse me, like what laws are we causing? Like what laws are we pushing through? Like what rules are we setting? Like what land are we governing? You know, like nothing. We're just observers of pop culture and society.
True.
And what the current events are. Like we report in a comedic way so people can like process it in a calming way without getting so psycho and freaked out or shut down, that they can laugh a little bit, release some endorphins, and then be able to process the trauma and be able to make a logical solution. That's all we're here for. Comedy saves the world. But then again, it's like you put a meme up with a mustache, suddenly you're the devil.
Yes.
Like, why don't we just deport you? Okay there, drug cartel.
Yeah, I was like, I've never done a drug in my life. But I think also that is part of the inherent problem, where comedy is not supposed to, it's not for the masses to consume. Like, I know that my comedy is not relatable. I say that my comedy, for most people, it's like verbal voyeurism, you know? Like, they get to go on these wild journeys and adventures with
Yeah.
me, but it's not relatable. But so that being said, like if you're in the audience and you actually get to like see me and experience it, it's very different than me just putting my filth out on the internet for the it's not for that.
Yeah, but it's also
not why. That's not why I do. Like I don't do comedy to try to. I know that I don't appeal to the masses. That's what I'm trying to do. But then working with some robot algorithm, you're like, hey man, is it okay if can I jerk this robot off this way? Does this make you happy? Like how do I make the robots be on my side? And that's frankly not something that I think most comedians have any interest in doing.
Yeah, and it's also, when we go blue or dirty, it's not because we want to shock the crowd or say a bad word so people go, ooh, she's so shocking and so controversial. No, it's just our thought. This is how my head's wired.
Yeah.
So you and I, comics like us, we're not dirty or dark or blue just because we want to shock. It's just experiences and how our heads are wired. Like Christiana, I wish I could be a clean comic because they get all the work. Nobody's scared of them. I call them beige comedy. Because it's beige. It kind of goes with everything. It's muted color. It's not offensive. You know, it kind of stays in the background. It just kind of does its job and nobody cares. Like nobody gets offended by beige.
It's true.
And so I call it beige comedy, but the way my mind is wired, it's constantly going off like a machine gun, like bah, 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 like joke, 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 joke. And it's like, that's just how I'm wired. And people like that I've done shows for that were clean casting directors or clean bookers, and they're like, it's crazy. I don't like cursing or dirty stuff or dark humor, but we could not stop watching you. You were so much fun. I go, yes, because it's not about being dirty or dark. It's about the joke, and it just happens to have a dark or a dirty element to it.
I think that's one thing that I agree with. There's a difference between, there are some people that are just going for the shock. But then if that's just organically who you are, like that's what I think people, especially now that I'm further in, when I first started, people would come to me like, but you're just, that's not your actual life. And I'm like, no, all of those things are very much true. Yeah. That's my life. This is who I am. Now they just know, and that's why they typically leave the room without making eye contact. They're like, this was just crazy. Yeah. But
that's also, you've developed that voice. Yeah. So I always tell comics when I've coached them, treat your comedy persona as a child. You gave birth to that child. You created that child, that voice. So you're turning 11. What do 11-year-old kids talk about? How do they act? They're kind of pretty independent. They have their own thoughts. Their conscience is starting to develop. They know right from wrong. They're pretty independent in the sense where they can take care of themselves around the house and, and make decisions. So like a comic at 2 or 3 years in, I'm like, oh, that's a toddler. That's a 2 or 3-year-old kid. Yeah. Not going to have a lot of words. Not really going to have a point of view. You're just going to be kind of all over the place because you're discovering. There's kids. Oh, this is new. Ooh, cool, new toy. Whatever. It's just so. My kid is 28. Yeah. She's an adult. She's out of college. She's started her career. Yeah. She's really an independent woman, but now she's setting her goals on, like maybe getting married or having a family or being an entrepreneur, a CEO of her own company, whatever that is. She's in that mindset to take over the world. So it's like, I always tell people, like when I go on the road with Andrew Dice Clay sometimes, like him and I have had conversations. I said, we talk about stand-up and all that stuff. And I said, well, remember the last time we were on the road, I said, you're 45 years in the game. Because I used to be like a cartoon character. And I said, yeah, you were, because you were new. So your character was like 8 years old, 10 years old. So of course it was over the top. But now you're not just Dice. Yeah. You're Andrew Dice Clay. So now when you're in this, you're a 45-year-old Dice. So that man has grown up. He's had kids. The kids are growing. They're like in high school or whatever, or maybe middle school. You have your career. You're pretty settled. You know who you are. You're just kind of coasting through life now, but you're an independent man. So now you've caught up to that character you created 45 years ago. So now you're able to use your everyday nuances of Dice and actually incorporate it in with that voice, because that voice is now 45. He goes, wow, I never thought of it that way. I said, yeah, you just caught up to yourself. Wow. So it's like it's a constant growth pattern. And people think, oh, you get to a certain point, you just stop growing. No. The farther in, the more you grow.
Hopefully. I will say, I feel like some people do stop, but I'm like, oh, all right.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, you'll be like,
they do.
Haven't
And they
seen
become
you in years, same bits. But
Yeah.
I think that one of the things I've like been able to reflect upon is that I think one of the shortcomings of comics is that we do not see ourselves as art. Not enough of us we don't see ourselves as artists. And and we are only in our own little worlds. We aren't exposed to like other creatives or other performance arts and da. But I think that the comics that do grow are comics that are are in touch with themselves, and also just creative people, have other performers in their life or experience other versions of art, and I think that helps also make people grow as a performer and as a creative.
Well, it's keeping your eyes and ears open and staying grounded. Like a month or so ago, I was doing a show out in Jersey, and it was in the basement of a strip joint called Black Betty's. And the place, they do comedy there now, and it's packed. I mean, this place is walled, like people live for this show. It's an underground show that's produced by Matt Bridgestone. And so, I come from the Comedy Store, so I grew up with Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz and the Eddie Griffins and the Dices and whoever else is out there, Bill Burrs and all these guys, right? So these are all guys that were around when I was they were already doing it when I started. So, but I was like under their wing. I was their kid coming up. So I was at the show, and Matt said he reached out to Joey Diaz because Joey lives in Jersey, and I've known Joey for almost 30 years. And he told them I was at the show. I was doing his show, and he goes, I'm going to pop by, because it was only 10 minutes from his house. And so he came in, and I haven't seen Joey since I moved to New York. So it's been 19 years since I've seen him.
Yeah.
And, it's just right where we left off, because we're family. It's a Comedy Store thing. Like, we're so bonded. Like, it's like, it's in our blood. Like, oh, we're family. And we're hanging out and having fun. And I went up, destroyed the place. I love trash. I always tell people I'm Oscar the Grouch. I love garbage. And so Joey, I was like, Joey, you want to go up? And he goes, no, I'm just hanging. I haven't done stand-up in a while. And I'm like, I go, Joey, you're the best storyteller I've ever fucking seen. I'm buttering him up, but I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm sincere. Joey Diaz is one of the funniest storytellers I've ever sat and listened to in my life. And he always has me in hysterics when he tells a story. And hey, cocksuckers, so I go up, kill it, and he hasn't seen me in 19 years, so he hasn't seen me do stand-up in a long time, and I could see his face and over the crowd. He's like, with this big smile, like he's into it, like I could see him going, put me in, coach, like he was getting inspired, because it's Comedy Store, it's a weird thing we have. So I get off stage, I sit down, and he looks at me, and he looks at Matt, and he goes, I'm going up next. And I was like, yes, my brother, go. And he went up for just 10 minutes. He was rusty, and he told 2 stories. Murdered. Like, it was just, it's Uncle Joey. He's one of the funniest human beings in the world. And we sit down, and we're talking after, and he goes, Milo, he's like, why do you do these little shit rooms? You can do anything. You can go anywhere. Why do you do this? And I said, you know why? This is the salt of the earth. Yeah. This is where the magic starts. I go, this keeps me grounded in the everyday life and what's really happening. I go, I feed off of this. This is magic to me. And I find nuggets in these rooms. And I take them and develop them, and they become, part of the act. And so that he's like, wow. And he was so happy. So then that Monday, he did his podcast. And he was talking about me, and he said at the end, he's like, I could have hung out with Tom Segura in Atlantic City. I could have went with Brett Ernst, but I heard my girl Christy Miller. I haven't seen her in 20 years, and she knows my wife. We've been friends for 30 years, and I haven't seen her. And so I popped in, and he goes, man, I was so uninspired. I didn't feel like doing anything. And she just looked at me, and I asked her, why do you do this shit? And I told him why. And he goes, she just said, this is where the magic starts. And he goes, when she said that, it just woke something up in me. And I was like, yes. And I go, this is how I stay inspired. I love small rooms. I love them. And any comic that says, I can't do that, or I'm too good for that, they ain't shit.
Well, also, it's just like anything else. There's always ebbs and flows. And I think creatives, period, or performing arts, period, there's always progress, and then
stagnation.
But also, I think that the value of a small room is, like you said, it's that's where you can. It's a low risk show. So you can go in and fuck around,
really experiment and really dig deep for the treasures.
Yeah, I feel like you always need all levels of shows.
Yeah, and it keeps you humble too, because if you do too many theater shows, like if you're opening for like a Dice or a Dia or whatever, if you're playing Segura, whatever, and you're doing all these theaters, so you're just cake. You're living off of cake and dessert every day. It's all pristine. You're complete when you work with those big headliners. You're completely alienated from the audience. In a shitty comedy club, like a small club or a dark room or an independent show somewhere off the beaten path, you're with them.
Yeah.
You're in the crowd with them. So when you're in the crowd with them, it really keeps you humble, because you're in the trenches. When you're in theaters and stadiums, you're not in the trenches, you're on the stage. They're in the trenches, and you're just looking down like you're in your castle, and you're looking down at all the peasants trying to get across the moat to get to you. And it's like you kind of get disconnected from reality.
That makes sense.
And I think it's so important. That's like when I was starting out, Paul Mooney would come to every shitty gig I did. He'd come to coffee shops. He would come to strip joints. He'd come to laundromats with me.
Yeah.
And he would go on stage. He would let me go up, and then he would go up and read the whole room and roast them to death, and I would cry laughing. And, but I'm like, wow, Paul Mooney's coming to these shitholes with me, and he's going on stage at a coffee shop.
No, that's fucking dope, though.
But that's the humblings. That's the real. That's why Mooney was he's one of the greatest to ever live, and he'll never be duplicated, ever. As everybody tries, and God bless them for trying, but you'll never be Paul Mooney. I'm sorry, that he's a one of a kind, but that's what kept him going. He loved the salt of the earth. He loved the stadiums, and he loved the big theaters, of course. Really loved people. Yeah. And he liked being in it with people.
Yeah.
And that's what kept him so fresh. Every Friday he'd have a new half hour.
Wow.
Yeah. That was like
That's impressive.
Yeah. It was like a new half hour every Friday night. He would show up at Caroline's or at the Comedy Store. I'm like, oh, Mooney's going on. What's he doing this week? Yeah. And he'd always have like a new 20 to a half hour ready to go.
Wow. That is very impressive.
But I learned so much from that man. Like, he taught me so much, and I'm so grateful. And I wouldn't trade those years for the world. I mean, there's no amount of fame that could take that away. You know what I mean? So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, that's amazing. I love an atypical show. I love a show in like a random, like a weird venue. There are a few weird shows I used to run. I used to run a show in a sneaker store because I'm a sneakerhead.
Me too. I love Chuck Taylors. What are your sneaker choices?
I'm a Nike girl, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Rude. It's like they're all made in China. The sound was down. I gotta do it again. Ready? That's all right. They're all made in China.
There we go. Chucks are too hard for me.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I like the flat. I mean, because I have a high arch anyway, but I'm a power lifter, so I lift heavy, so you have to be flat, but it really helps. Especially on these hard streets, it keeps my feet flat and my ankles dorsiflex properly. Because when you're in a cushy shoe, if you have any gait issues or any imbalances, it's just going to reinstate it 10 times over and really cement those imbalances in, because your foot doesn't have anything to plant into.
Oh, that makes sense. I have a pretty low arch, so maybe that's why.
That's probably why, because they have a good arch support in those.
Yeah, I'm a Nike bitch.
But
so
I used to at sneaker stores.
Yeah, I used to run a show out of a sneaker store. I live in Harlem.
Okay.
So I used to run a show at a sneaker store right on 125th Street. It was a lot of fun. I used to have a show. I used to run an apartment show too. And then I got tired of people being in my motherfucking house, and I was like, that's enough of that. I was like, that is enough of that. I do not appreciate. There's still comics on my shit list from them roasting my personal items in my house.
Oh, I'm
which
dead.
Obviously, you're not supposed to make fun of, the club or whatever.
Oh, I shit on the room. Don't worry.
Shit. Yeah, no.
But in fun. I always shit in fun.
Yeah, people would shit on my actual stuff, and I'm like, where the fuck you live in? You know what I mean? Like, you live in an apartment big enough to have a show only in the living room? I don't fucking think so.
Yeah, you're like, bitch, you're in my apartment.
Yeah, this is my stuff.
What show are you booking?
Exactly.
You're on my show for free, bitch. You ain't shit.
Or just I remember one time someone picked up glass. It's not a glass. It's a metal cup from the 70s with it was my granddad's, and they're like making fun of him. I'm like, that's my dead granddad's. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you. Anyway, but yeah, no, I got tired of people being in my house. One of the last shows, someone came and they're very heavy, and then they brought a equally heavy woman. And I remember watching them on my, like, looking at them sit on my CB2 couch, and I'm like, your big asses should be either on a plastic chair or on the floor. This is an expensive couch.
Their big asses should have been on a treadmill.
Yeah, I just wanted to be like, yo, this is the last time these fat fuckers are gonna be in my goddamn house.
There's a 2-pound maximum.
Yeah, I did not. But anyway, I did love doing apartment shows because I like being in it. I like being. I think most of my career I worked in real estate.
Okay.
So I'm very much like, let's go. I can look people. I feel comfortable like dealing with people directly.
Yep.
But yeah, no, everyone loved the shows except for me. But also I did too much because I make ice cream, so I would have ice cream. And then people would ask me, I took a hiatus after this fucking thing happened. A comic hit me up. I made the ice cream for these shows, right?
Sure.
A comic hit me up. He doesn't do comedy anymore.
This is why.
And then he was like, did you really make the ice cream? Which there was a video on the Facebook invite of the ice cream spinning. It's not like stock image, right?
Right.
And I said, yeah, you could see it being made in the invite. And then he goes, oh, were you gonna have sprinkles? And that's where I was like, no, we're not doing this for.
Oh no.
Because I make very bougie ice cream, but also I'm like, I wanted to go. You are a grown 30-something-year-old black man from the Bronx, asking me about some fucking sprinkles. Like, are you crazy right now? Oh. Like, oh, God forbid I don't have sprinkles at the ice cream show where I homemade all of the ice cream, and also I don't
charge you for it.
Exactly.
It's a gift.
Yeah. Like I'm like, what the fuck? And then he was like, oh, I can't make it because I have to babysit my nephew. Why are we talking about this? Anyway, so I do not have an apartment show anymore because I don't want motherfuckers in my goddamn house asking me about sprinkles. And yeah, I'm like, you could bring your own sprinkles if it's that serious.
If you want diabetes that bad, bring your own damn sprinkles.
Exactly.
Bitch.
But it was a lot of fun. I did love doing the show and people had fun at it. But
sure.
But I like being like weird. I'm trying to think of where else I used to love doing. Like I had a weird show, but I just love it. So let's like get out of the norm. Like everyone's just in a regular kind of setup, you know. Yeah. Like, but I think I grew up in a performing arts family, so I think that's also a part of it. Like I love the quirkiness of things and the atypicalness of things, and like let's be in this strange environment and make people laugh.
Let's see what we can do. And I always tell people too, like in those really weird shows, like if it's like a private event or like some off the beaten path show, test yourself, put yourself through it.
Of course.
See what you can do in a situation that's all the odds are against you. How are you going to get out of this, and how are you going to make this a rock star show?
Yeah, I remember what shows in it. One of the shows that I used to do that I think got me really good at hosting. There was a show in a hostel.
Okay.
And in Long Island City, and it was a weekly show, and you just never knew who the fuck was going to be there, what their level of English was, if they understood it. It was a hostel. Yeah. And I think that show got me really good at hosting because I was just always like, you know who the fuck's going to be here. But also I've traveled a lot and I'm bilingual. So it was great because I would have all these random, also I just watch a lot of documentaries and try to understand cultures. So I'd have all these random like facts and knowledge and like jokes and like, so I think I used to love that show because also comics would come in and be like, oh, okay. And they would just go into their regular set. And it was like they got Nancy Kerrigan in the like 3 minutes in. Like someone just took someone to their knee. You could just watch them bomb so quickly because it's like, this is a hostile show. If you're just doing your regular set and like there's like 40 French speaking teenagers, they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like you gotta
connect to your audience.
Yeah.
Play to the audience in the room, not to the one in your fucking head.
Yeah,
or on your telephone.
People would bomb that show. It was pretty hilarious. I'm just like, guys, there's like 3 people who speak German. there's like a bunch of arrogant French people who don't know English but think that they can just will it to happen. And then there's there's always one weird New Yorker that you're like, why are you in a hostel? What's your situation?
Because you can't be in a house.
Yeah, like you're like, whoa, what's going on there? It just always be like so like who knows what's gonna happen. And it just, it got me really good at hosting. Actually, that's also how I got cast for Cash Cab.
Oh, is that how you got? First of all, before we get into the Cash Cab, because I did want to ask you about that.
Oh, word.
What's your second language?
Spanish.
Mira, I love it, right?
¿Tú hablas español?
Poquito.
Ah, ok, bueno.
Oh.
Yo aprendí español en Cuba.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfecto.
But
what's learned? I forgot now.
Aprendí.
Yes. Yo aprendí español en el locker room de gymnasium.
Ah, sí, bueno.
Los mujeres, hilarious.
Word.
They are the funniest. The ladies in the locker room at every gym. Oh. The Dominican ladies at my gym, they have me in stitches. And if I don't understand, like, because I'll speak Spanish to them because I love it because it keeps it fresh. Because I learned it in high school, but that's high school Spanish. Like, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? You know, where am I going to go with that? Nowhere.
Classic Espanol.
Right? So I talk to them all the time. And then if I don't understand, we'll play charades. And then I'm in tears. And they are roasting everybody in the gym, and they are the funniest ladies on the planet. So I talk to them as much as I can to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
So now, Cash Cab.
Oh yeah, Cash Cab was fun. So basically, from hosting that hostel show, I didn't the program coordinator came in and just watched one of the shows.
Okay.
And then I didn't know he was a casting agent too, or like working with casting.
Right.
So then one day he was like, hey, I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And he was like, hey, I'm casting for a game show. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then he's like, okay, like answer these trivia facts and we'll see, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, all right, great. And like I said, I know a bunch of random knowledge in my head. So I did well. And then he was like, okay, now you're going to build your team and like figure out who else you want on your team. And then you'll have a casting session. So basically, I was like, all right, I'm at that point I was like my late 30s. I was like, I need to get somebody younger so they know young trivia.
Right.
So I picked my friend Mel because she was in her late 20s at that time. I think maybe mid to late. Isn't it crazy? Sometimes you just go like you realize someone's age and then you go, oh, I've been hanging out with like kids without really, you know what I mean? Like some of my friends are just turning 30 and I'm like, how old were you when I first met you? What the fuck? Anyway. Yeah. But so then I was like, hey, because I knew also she'd be free during the daytime because she was a bartender and she was wait staff. So I was like, all right, cool. She's young. She'll probably be free. We have great rapport. She's very funny. She's a comic too. So then we then we did the casting audition. We fucking murdered it.
Nice.
And then I didn't hear anything. And I was like, oh, all right, well, whatever.
We did our best.
And then I was in Mexico. And then I started getting messages. And they were like, we've been trying to contact you. We want you to do the episode. And so, and I was like, oh shit, I'm in Mexico. But then I got back, it was literally the last day of filming for that season was the day that when I came back that day.
Oh shit.
So it was perfect, but we still didn't know it was Cash Cab. They did surprise us.
Right.
It was terrifying. I don't like being startled. So we get in the cab, they're like, they're gonna take you to where the thing is. In my head, I was just like, I hope I don't have to jump because I don't need my tits jiggling. Like, you can't really see me. I have massive tits, and I was like, I don't have a broad of support.
People, watch the YouTube link. They're amazing.
Thank you. But I was like, I don't have any type of broad of support if I have to jump. So that was my whole thing. I'm like, they're like, you're gonna do like a scavenger hunt. I was like, please don't make me have to jump. And then I got to sit in the cab, so it worked out perfectly. But we got in the cab, and then the lights went off, and it freaked me the fuck out. And then they're like,
don't do this to a black woman, motherfucker. I'll shoot you.
I just didn't know. I was just like, oh my God, I don't like being startled. So then, so they're like, you want to play? We're like, yeah. We got out of the cab. We decided all the shit. Mel, we get out. She's got tears in her eyes, and she was like, Christiana, ever since I was a young girl in Miami, I used to watch Cash Cab every day after school.
Aww.
She's like, well, I moved to New York and wanted to be on Cash Cab. I cannot believe this is happening. And I was like, great, bitch, I don't know how to play the game. Like, I was like, I know.
I draw my team, let's go.
Yeah, I was like, let's not have a Pisces moment and you be so emotional. Yeah. I'm like, I'm glad you somehow manifested this when you were 12 years old, but I'm like, I don't know how to play this game.
So manifest the win, bitch.
Yeah, and we did. It was fun.
Nice.
It was really fun. It was good. We cursed a lot, though. They were like, we have to bleep out like most of what?
That's all right.
You guys are saying. But it was fun. It was good. It was a good time.
That's awesome. I used to watch that show. I always thought it was adorable. I'm like, because I used to laugh. I go, motherfucker, how do they not know? Like in my head, I'm like, this has to be precast. Because I'm like, motherfucker, if I got in a cab in New York City and the motherfucker clicked the lights, it's cash cab, I'd be like, shh, boom, it's my cab now, bitch. Like, don't fucking do that shit to me. I'm thinking of being hostage.
Yeah, no, it was terrifying.
Yeah, I would have peed.
But it was a good time. It was really fun. And then Ben Bailey was very, very nice.
He's very sweet.
Yeah. And then it turns out, actually, his family lives where I grew up. And I was like, that's such a random
that is so
ass
random
connection. So I'm from a very rural part of New Jersey. I'm from a town called Phillipsburg.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, there's nothing out there. So I'm like, how do we have Phillipsburg in common randomly?
Hilarious.
Yeah.
See, it was meant to be.
I think so. Between Mel manifesting that as a 12-year-old in Miami and then
Ben's family being from Phillipsburg and yours.
I was destined to be on Cash Cab.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, before we wrap it up, like, when I was a kid, like in my teens, I still lived at my mother's house. And remember Geraldo?
Yes.
Well, he had the panel on about censorship. Remember the big things about censoring albums and stuff like that? Yeah. So they had Joey Ramone's mother on the panel.
Word.
Paul Mooney and somebody else. I don't even remember. I just remember Joey's mom and Mooney. And I remember seeing Mooney and I go, I love that man so much. Him and I are going to be best friends one day.
Oh, wow.
And then like 8 years later,
I'm
at the Comedy Store. I'm there 1 week. I don't give a shit about anybody. In walks Paul Mooney. I almost dropped my glass and had a heart attack. And at the time, Eleanor Kerrigan, she's really blown up. She's Dice's opener. And ex-fiance and best friend, and she's hilarious. And she was like, looked at me like I was psychotic, because we're both waitresses. This is in the mid-90s, and she's like, I go, oh my God, it's Paul Mooney. Like, I'm in starstruck. Like, that's not me. And she goes, yeah, Mooney's here. So what? Like, because she's bitter, because now they have to stay out till 3 in the morning, even though the bar closes. What last calls at 1:30. The show ends at 2, but he stays on forever. And I'm like, I go, you don't understand, Eleanor. That's Paul fucking Mooney. And she goes, you're a fucking retard, bitch. We're going to be here all fucking night. Good luck to you. And I met him, and we clicked instantly. Oh, you're going to sit and watch? Yeah, I am. And so I sat in the back and watched. And he goes, oh, and when he got off stage, oh, I heard you laughing the hardest out of everybody. Oh. We were inseparable that moment. Wow. And I was in my head going, 8 years ago, I said you and I would be best friends.
Wow.
So it's all the power of manifestation, people. It works.
We go.
Now, if I could just apply it to the rest of my life, yeah! But before we go, and I loved having you on. You're so amazing. You'll have to come back again.
I will. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
I always end the show with 2 questions.
Yes.
Because they're silly and fun, and it's just really fun. And no one ever asks these questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you ask that? Because I do. And my first question is there a bit a comic has written that made you go, God damn, that's brilliant. I wish I had written that first.
That's a good question. Because I typically, because my comedy is so personal, I rarely see a bit that makes me go like, oh, I wish I wrote that. Because I'm just like, oh, I'm like talking about my own journey, my own life.
Sure.
But I did think of a one-liner that does speak to me, that is so clever that I do wish I had written. It was also came out so much earlier than before I was even born. Which is the one-liner, masturbation is sex with someone you love. I think that's Woody Allen. That's a good one. Actually, and when I was in high school, I bought like from Spencer Gifts like like a little like metal whatever sign that said that. Which now that I'm older, I'm like, my parents should have been like, oh, all right, bitch, this is
a call for help.
Yeah, like she's gonna be a wild one.
Intervention time.
Word. But yeah, I think it's such an excellent bit, and I'm a big fan of jerking off. So
see, 2 things that go great together.
Yes.
And my final question is, we're all old heads. We love a good street joke or a good dad joke, but also Paul Mooney used to his closers were street jokes.
Oh,
and
nice.
He would Mooneyize them. And when you knew when Paul was going into street jokes, he was wrapping it up. And he would add a Mooney twist to it, and add his and destroy the place. Like you would thought he wrote these jokes. Like that's how great he was at telling jokes. So, do you have a go-to street joke?
I don't tell any street jokes. I tell jokes about being of the streets. My pussy definitely belongs to the streets. No man will hold me. or can hold me, I should say. They will for a couple hours and then it'll be it. But I was thinking in honor of Mother's Day, I do like a good Yo Mama joke.
Oh, Yo Mama jokes are the greatest.
Yeah, that's a nice, easy. Also, because I'm a fan of like quick jokes.
Me too.
So it's like a nice, easy. And then I didn't realize there's a whole new crop of new Yo Mama jokes.
Oh, there is millions now. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I was really surprised.
So throw a couple.
Well, one that I saw, the one that I liked the most was Yo Mama's so fat she sat on Walmart to lower the prices. And I was like, this is a good inflation. Yo Mama, like this is
very current.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, this is actually a pro Yo Mama. If she's saving us all money, that's kind of a positive Yo Mama joke.
Right? That's Yo Mama doing things for humanity.
Exactly. Yeah. Get all the fat mamas to sit on the Walmarts.
Hello.
All of the stores.
Right? Get out there, ladies.
It's expensive to be alive these days.
It really
that's
is.
Any
other Yo Mama jokes?
No, to be honest, I totally forgot because last night I was getting some dick, and then I was like, "You gotta look
rude.
up." Actually, when you were first texting, I was getting dick from someone that I hate, and it was not worth it. Still hate that man. But then last night I got dick from someone that I hate, but the dick is good. So it's like, within I turned it around within a couple of days.
Yeah.
But also I was like, you gotta look up some fucking jokes, bitch. I'm like, you've got some homework for the podcast.
It's not important homework. It's just fun homework.
No, word. So I was like, let me focus on one bit that I can remember.
Yeah.
And
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That is such a great one. Well, I adore you. I'm so happy you're here. I'm glad
Thank you so much for having me.
As Carol Burnett would say, I'm so glad we had this time together.
Yes, another classic comedian.
Right? And tell everybody out there in the interwebs where they can find you and if you have any shows coming up.
Oh, sure. So I do have some shows coming up this week. I just put shows in my stories on IG.
Okay.
And my IG and everything is Icomprable MSC. When I first started, I had a stage name because I, had a job.
Right.
And so it was Miss C. And then eventually I just got tired of explaining to people, and I was like, just use my name, it's fine. So that's where you can find me.
At the Incomparable Miss
Icomprable MSC on Instagram, on TikTok, but I barely post there.
Right.
On Twitter, which I also don't use, so it's mainly Instagram.
Okay. Perfect. And as well, you can follow this show on Instagram at Old School New School Comedy, and you can also follow me everywhere at Christy Miller Comedy. And I forgot what I was just going to I'm so tired. But yeah, be sure to follow the show. Be sure to follow Christiana Jackson on all the socials at her Incomparable MSC. Follow Old School New School Comedy. Follow at Christy Miller Comedy. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show. We love you. See you next week.